Hi guys, it's Jess. Welcome back to the Not Carrie Bradshaw YouTube channel. In this video, I'm reviewing the season finale, episode 8, season 2 of the Gilded Age. Guys, we made it. This episode gave us so much to look forward to in what is hopefully season 3. And shouts out to the commenters. You guys called so many plot lines that we saw unfold in this finale. So let's get right into it. So surprising no one, the Duke is whoring horribly elsewhere. He done jumped ship with Bertha. He's over here with Mrs. Astor. And Bertha is not taking it lightly. She is absolutely pissed. And Marion spills the tea to Larry Russell that it was actually Mr. McAllister who got the Duke to abandon Bertha and come slide onto the academy side of things. And I'm gonna tell you what I appreciate about Mr. McAllister. He's a messy bitch, but he owns it. And I can always appreciate a messy bitch who knows who they are, that's like self-aware. And he's like, I've been doing this longer than you. I ain't even gonna hold you. There isn't an amount of money that you can offer him that's gonna draw him to your side. Mrs. Astor can offer him access that you just don't have yet. And Bertha is not really one to be easily swayed or dismayed. She's like, my head is bowed but unbent. Like, I'm gonna figure this out. So she goes to George and she's like, this nigga done played in our face. And George is like, I'm gonna stop you right there. I'm gonna stop you right there. We done gave these people enough money. I done paid for construction to be finished. I done swindled this man, unbeknownst to Bertha, swindled this man into giving her the premier box. Like, we've given enough to this whole endeavor. The bank is cut off. It is what it is. Your opening night is going to be fine, and you just need to trust the process. But Bertha, again, like, our girl really don't be taking no for an answer, and a part of me can actually like really respect that. So she goes to see the Duke, and let's just pull over right here. Is it me or do Bertha have one hell of a walk? Because the way she set shade up to where the Duke was hanging out at to go talk to him, and a part of me was like, girl, do you really think it's a good idea for you as a married woman to be going off to the side, like unescorted to visit a Duke? Like, you're not worried about what people gonna think. And when she closed them doors, I was like, Bertha, is you about to shout him some feet? You about to show some hole? What you about to do? But we know from context clues that she's really offering Gladys and her bangs up to the Duke as a means to pull him back in. And we'll get to that a little bit later. Now, I'm curious when Marion tells Aunt Agnes that she's been invited to the Met. Why does she lie and say that it was Bertha who invited her over Larry? I'm guessing that it's because Agnes doesn't think that it's a good idea for Marion to be receiving an invitation from a single man when she's engaged. But I found that to be a little bit odd. And let me say something. They really played in our face with Gladys's big reveal. Okay, Bertha ate her up. Bertha came down them stairs in a look, and then it was Gladys in her bangs. Like, y'all are not gonna sell me on Gladys being hot, young, and turned. Like, she's not that girl, but like, okay, sure. Meanwhile, Gladys is interested in a whole other dude, Mr. Carlton, and Bertha's like, nope, eyes on the prize. I was way too invested in the low stakes of the big opening night. The way they set the music and the cinematography, you would have thought we were watching something so consequential. It was not. It was not, but I was pulled in. I was on the edge of my seat. Is the Duke gonna show up for Bertha? Is the Duke gonna show up for Mrs. Astor? What's gonna happen? I was invested. So the big night comes. I'm gonna tell you what I love. Mr. Winterton told Turner that she better sit her black ass down and act like she'd been somewhere before and don't go in here and don't touch nothing, don't ask for nothing. When she got in there and realized, like, yeah, you're on the first tier of box seats, but you do not have the premier seat because George already cleared that. George already cleared that. It was like, it's my bitch's night and you will not take over for her. So the way that Turner reacts to this, I think, is setting us up for a revenge plot for next season. I can't remember if we've been renewed yet, but I think that's going to be really interesting to see unfold. I really, really, really love that George doesn't always take credit for everything that he does to make sure that Bertha is happy. He really like stood back and let her have her moment when she walked into the box seats. And I'm pretty sure Bertha knows that like George pulled some strings, but he doesn't gloat. He just does what he's supposed to do as a husband, as a partner, as a supporting, factor in Bertha's life. And it was really good to see her like take in that moment of celebration. Um, so the Met, they have a full house. Everybody's there. All the girls are there. It's the place to be. It's the hottest ticket in town. The Academy is Flop Tina Aguilera. Shouts out to Trixie Mattel and Katya. Flop Tina Aguilera. Not only were the seats empty, but people started leaving. And I'm going to tell you another messy ass bitch, Mrs. Fish. But I'm going to tell you what I appreciate about Mrs. Fish. Much like Mr. McAllister, she's a self-aware messy bitch. And she was like, child, if I leave now, I can catch my ride, catch my Uber to get over to the Met in time. And hopefully I haven't missed anything. So the Duke arrives to much applause. Our girl Bertha has won the opera war. And, Mrs. Fish was like, girl, you have just revitalized life in the social scene in New York. Like, cheers to you. Now, here's what, we'll see how long she can hold on to it, because she is making enemies left and right. Like, even Aurora Fane, showed up to the Met because she no longer wants to be under Mrs. Astor's thumb. But here's what, you just gonna end up being under Bertha's. So we'll see what happens. Now, George has PT that something is going on because Bertha is being super friendly with the Duke. She's telling him to call them by their first names. And it's just like, oh, you sure? Like, what? So, George is like, what did you do to get him to your side? And Bertha was like, mind the business that pays us. Okay? You do what you got to do in Pittsburgh. I'm going to do what I got to do over here. Now, again, one of the commenters really called this, that the way Bertha is teeing Gladys up for the Duke, when Gladys is clearly into this Mr. Carlton person, that's going to be a point of contention next season between Bertha and George, because what George don't play about is his baby girl and her marriage prospects. Like we know from earlier in the season, he does not want her to marry for social status or money. He really wants her to marry for love because she has the privilege and the freedom to do so. So we'll see how that turns out. I'm so happy that Marion and Larry kissed. This party for the opera went well into the morning, and they walked across the street together as the sun was coming up, and, oh, you'll always be my friend, and da-da-da. And then he kissed her, and I'm just like, yes, I've been waiting for this. I'm so excited for this. So, meanwhile, the Van Ryns have a conversation with their family lawyer. He's letting them know y'all have a little bit of money, but you'll have a whole lot more if you sell this house. And I'm sure some shit in here that y'all can sell. Y'all don't deserve this, but it is what it is. Oscar cannot apologize enough, and Agnes is holding his ass to the fire every chance that she gets. So they also can't afford to keep on a full staff. But of course, they'll need a cook and a maid, but like the kind of extra people may not really have any job security. And fortunately, Bannister is just like, we'll stay on until we get more information. And I really do appreciate them letting the staff know well in advance so that they can look for other job prospects and they don't have to just sit around and twirl their fingers. But, Bannister is super loyal to the Van Ryn family. So he's like, we'll just do what we're supposed to do until we can't do it no more. And I do appreciate how pragmatic Aunt Agnes is, where she's like, I might as well start packing my shit up and just accept that, my life is what it is. Now, what I do have a problem with Agnes is, how you gonna be going broke and anti-Semitic? You can't be both at the same time. And I'm glad that Ada was like, don't start your shit. We got enough going on. Keep it cute. Because if they just move further downtown, closer to the Jewish community, they can also live out a pretty decent living, just not high up on, the Upper East Side. And again, it's like racism never takes a break, And one of the things that I enjoy about Aunt Agnes's character is how complex she is in terms of she definitely has her prejudices, and it's interesting that she can call Armstrong out on hers and say that, oh, we should pity her, that she needs to be prejudiced against other people to feel good about herself. And it's like, pot, meat, kettle. Sweetie, the call's coming from inside the house. So what they also can't afford is Marion's wedding or her allowance. So Dashiell is the answer to both of those things. And, cousin Dashiell is like, oh, I'm going to pay for the wedding. This is nice of him, but I'm so happy Marion finally broke this damn engagement off. It didn't even occur to me, not just that things felt off about Dashiell, but it didn't occur to me that the thing that was off is the fact that he is kind of looking for Marion to be a seat filler. And they don't really want the same kinds of lives. He wants someone who's going to be a stay-at-home wife and mother and a doll who he can dress up. And it's just, he wants to like copy and paste his wife, Harriet. When he called Marion Harriet, I was like, ooh, okay, we're going downhill fast. And I'm also really happy we don't have to deal with that creepy kid anymore. Like, I'm so happy that this engagement is over. It was nice that Marion, talked to the little girl and was like, look, I still want to be a part of your life. I'm still here for you. Love y'all big time, love y'all long time, but it's just not really giving for me because I don't love your daddy the way a wife's supposed to love a husband and vice versa. So everything was handled with maturity, but I am so just happy that it's over. Especially because that means our homeboy Larry can just slide in. So I'm also glad that, of course, we knew that Aunt Ada was going to support Marion's choice because she was like, that man was not right for you. Like, he's still obviously in love with his wife, but I'm also thrilled that Agnes is like, I didn't expect for you to marry just to make me happy. And, I'm not thrilled that you're going to the Met, but it is what it is. But let me be real with you. You're not going to get a third strike. You already once bitten, twice shy. A woman in this world, especially back then, is not safe if she doesn't have a father, family, money, and any prospects in terms of a partner. And the thing is, that's still kind of true today. But again, Agnes is a pragmatic person. And like she said, life goes fast. You do not want to look up and have nothing to your name because at this point, we can't really help you. So, again, shouts out to the commenters. As predicted, Uncle Luke did have family money. There was a successful textile business back in Boston. He kind of took a vow of poverty or to live a more frugal or a more Spartan existence as a part of the clergy, and he's left everything to Ada. Now that means that the family is saved, everyone's jobs are saved, they don't have to leave their house. But this also means that now Ada is the head of the household. That's going to be really interesting next season because Agnes has always been the one to call the shots because she's always had the power and the privilege via being like the moneyed part of this sisterhood. So I can't wait to see how that turns out. So thanks to Arthur's connection with Mr. Hastings, the white ally who's a pharmacist, they get news that the Board of Education has moved this meeting up early so that none of the Black people can show up and plead their case. Now, just to pull over as an aside, I am of the belief, and maybe I need to read this more, that the only way that we can progress in this world is if we have more allies. And I don't want to buy into the white savior trope, but I was happy to see that there was a white person that was willing to, in as much as he could, or was willing to put himself on the line to help these Black people out. I'm curious how impactful in real life white allies were to our progress, and we still have such a long way to go. But I can't help but feel some kind of goodness when I see that kind of support from people who don't look like us, because we're not the ones who need to change the world. It's the people who don't look like us, who don't identify as we do. Those are the people who need to change. And I just think that we can only do so much work on our own without the support of white people, without the support of people who have access and privilege. So I'm really happy that this gave the Black community time to gather up their paperwork and run down and plead their case. Now, what pissed me off is there were 3 Black public schools that were up for closure. They had to close one, quote unquote, just so they could save face. Now, yeah, this is a victory, but I'm really tired of Black people having to suffer so that white people don't have to look bad. I feel like that still happens so much and so often. White people make a fuss about some bullshit. They know that they're wrong. We prove that they're wrong, and they can't give us everything that we're asking for because they have to save face. And it's this whole thing of we don't want to look bad. If you don't want to look bad, don't do bad shit. So during this whole time, Peggy sees Mrs. Fortune with their baby, and this makes Peggy realize that the only way to escape heartbreak is for her to resign from the paper. I'm kind of sad to see her give up her job, but she does have a novel that she's been working on, and I did not want to see my girl be a mistress, so I'm actually happy that that part of the storyline got resolved. Neither her nor Mr. Fortune obviously like really wanted to say goodbye, but this was gonna go nowhere but bad, and I'm thrilled that we didn't have to see the black girl become a mistress. Um, I'm happy too that this project is really bringing Arthur and Dorothy closer together because they started the season off in a really rocky place due to the death of the child that Arthur rejected. And, you know, but for his rejection, maybe the child would have lived. All these what ifs. I'm glad to see that Arthur and Dorothy are coming back together. Hashtag Black Love. Um, Jack's patent has been approved. I'm so happy for Jack. I'm also thrilled that Peggy had the bright idea to say, like, Marion, you need to take him across the street to your homeboy Larry, because Larry and his family knows business. Because the thing is, you have a bright idea. That's what happens, I think, with a lot of creatives. You have the idea, but you don't have the business mindset to make your idea into something profitable. Now, I ain't gonna hold you. The cynical part of me was like, don't be showing him everything, because what if Larry take this shit and run? Or, you know, people in business can be ruthless. I'm hoping that everything works out for him and that he doesn't get swindled out of his idea. We have the patent, and the patent, you know, protects his intellectual property, but I do not trust these people, but we'll see what happens. I love that Larry told him he wants to go into business together. It just gave me the warm and fuzzies, especially after Larry and Marion kissed. Mr. Bourne and Miss Bruce are continuing their romance with the support of Bertha. They got to go see the opera together, and I absolutely loved that. Of course, they had orchestra seats, but they still got to be there. They still got a night off, and that was cute. And despite how awful she's been to Peggy, when Mrs. Armstrong expressed how afraid she was of life outside of that house, being an older woman and probably not being able to find another job, Peggy still went and advocated for her. And, you know, Ada and Agnes recognized that, like, she really don't owe her that. I think that's so true of Black women. A lot of us are empathetic and compassionate, sometimes to our detriment. So I'm not surprised to see that Peggy put in a good word to make sure that Armstrong could stay on, and that Agnes listened to her and respected that perspective. I feel like we're always doing a lot, even for people who don't show up for us or who don't offer us the most respect. And that's not something that I'm going to say everyone should do, but I'm not surprised because I think we just do that often. Unfortunately, the people who bear so much oppression and disrespect, we tend to have a lot more compassion and empathy for other people, even when they don't look like us. I'm sure that's something that someone has studied, and I don't know the name for it, but I caution us against doing too much of that, because I think sometimes we can be too self-sacrificial. But it didn't surprise me that that happened. So that's the season. That's the season finale. I was really happy with it. Everything got tied with a nice bow. We have some storylines to look forward to next season. I'm thrilled that Marianne ended that creepy ass engagement and we ain't got to see that creepy ass little girl no more. So let me know what you guys thought of this episode and this season. Be sure to check back in with me for my rap shit reviews, and when House of the Dragon comes back. I don't know if it's top of the year or I think it's summer next year. I'll absolutely be reviewing that. And I'll also be doing some pop culture reviews on here as well. So check back, come back to the channel. Be sure to tell a friend, subscribe, share. Talk to you guys soon.